I have to say, I'm honored by our guest today. She has trusted me with her story of overcoming a heinous crime one could ever encounter. Join me today to learn more about the story from going from victim to victorious. Welcome, welcome. As I said, I am so honored to introduce my guest today, Kenzie Scanlon, and she is a survivor of sexual assault. And she's here to bring awareness of these awful crimes and how she overcame to become victorious. Welcome, welcome, Kenzie. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. So, this is a very sensitive subject for a lot of people,
Mhm.
but it's such an important message to get out there. And I just love your story, how you didn't let it define your life and you didn't just, go away and become a victim. But
Right.
I cannot wait to hear more about how you have chosen to be victorious in your life.
Ah,
So, can you give us a little background about yourself first?
sure. Yeah. So I am currently based in Winston-Salem, North Carolina right now, and I'm just going to school full time. I'm getting my master's currently in forensic psychology, and I'm working part-time as a server at your local Buffalo Wild Wings. Um, So pretty much the focus right now is completing school. I'll be done in June. And until then, yeah, I'm just powering through then until I hopefully land a job in my new career field of the criminal justice system.
Awesome, awesome. So let's go ahead and dig into into your story some. So can you give us some basic setups of what happened that day, or
Sure.
was it in the evening,
Yeah.
or
Right. So it was a pretty normal day. I had off from work and I was just kind of going through my normal routine. I went for a run. It wasn't anything, special out of the ordinary. I went for a run and then I think I went, grocery shopping, made dinner that night. And I always had dinner with my roommate before, we went to bed. And so wrapped things up and I was living in a house of it was 6 other females at the time. It was kind of a shoebox, not gonna lie, because it was all that my budget could afford at the time. So I went into my room and I always, I had The Office playing on my laptop. Um, kind of it was a normal thing that I would do. I would usually fall asleep to TV at night.
mm-hmm.
And then so, in and out of sleep. Or I wasn't fully asleep. And I remembered hearing something or thinking, sounds like there's an animal outside or something. But I wasn't, fully it was weird. I wasn't fully awake. I was kind of half
Mm-hmm.
asleep. Um, and then so it obviously it didn't bother me. I just thought it was a squirrel or something in the in
Right,
the
right.
backyard, right? And then and so then, you know, couple moments later, I just kind of see my bedroom door just open up, right? And my first thought, I honestly thought I invited a friend over, um, and I forgot. So when the door opened up, I said, "Hey," because I thought, "Sorry, I'm so sorry, I fell asleep." Um, and then it was all I could see was kind of like this black silhouette, right? And then opened the door, very casually walked into my room, right? And I was still kind of waking up and kind of, trying to understand what happened or who this was, I guess. So I said, "Hey," again. Um, and then he got in my bed, right? And so then I thought somebody's pulling a prank on me. So I honestly started laughing and thought, okay, what, you know, who is pulling this prank on me, right? And then things started to obviously escalate from there. And then I was being kind of grabbed in ways. Um, that's kind of when my mind started to transition into, okay, what what is happening? This doesn't feel like a prank. And then to be honest, he started saying some things to me that made me realize, okay, I this is not a prank. I think this is something pretty serious happening. And so now at this point, I'm pretty fully awake, right? That kind of the fear kind of woke me up.
Mhm.
Um, and that's when I started to realize, okay, um, he's got gloves on. There's a ski mask on, and I remembered I was trying to just like I started moving, just started naturally pushing him off, right? And then I realized, he had a vest on of some sort. Um, and now, at that point, it was full blown fear. I don't know who this person is. Somebody has brought them into my house. Um, I need to, what can I do, right? So I was trying to push him off, and just thoughts were kind of racing through my head, and the fear was getting more and more intense. And then, so that's when I started to scream. And weirdly enough, I screamed, "Hey," because that was all that I had said. So I said, "Hey," when he, opened the door, right? And then that scream, I mean, was my saving grace. That's when he just immediately got off and ran out of the house and fled, right? And my roommates at the time, they heard me. So they all come to my room and they said, "What happened?" And I was just kind of sitting there. I couldn't even, you know, talk. I didn't know. I just kind of looked at them. My
You were
palms
just in
were up and I just
shock.
looked at them and I said, I don't know. I don't even know what just happened. And they kept asking me questions. And then my one roommate, she kind of connected the dots with the things that I said, I was being grabbed. I was being, he like held my wrist down at one point when I was trying to push or whatever. And so she said, "All right, um, I think we need to call the cops." And oh, thank God that she did that because I didn't know what to do. She proposed that, and I said, "Oh, okay,
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine the
let's."
the terror that was going through. You
Well,
were probably in total shock and didn't quite
right,
have a chance to comprehend what was going on.
right. And so she calls the cops, and she goes, "My roommate was just assaulted. I think we need to have um, police come." And and I remembered on the phone, the woman she was talking to, she said, "Is the victim there?" And she goes, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, put her on the phone. Let's not, you know, let's talk to her and get, her um insight on what happened." And they got on the phone. And I weirdly, when I hear the recording of the phone, I sounded very angry and just kind of confused. They were asking me like, "How did he get in?" I said, "I don't know." Like, I don't know these answers. And they said, "Did you know him?" And I said, "No, I don't know. I couldn't see him. He was in all dark clothing." And then, the police arrived. And that's when, honestly, this like 2 to 3 hour period is confusing, or I don't, there's kind of like bits and pieces that I remember. I remember going outside for a second, and there was such a big helicopter with a spotlight. They sent in everybody to
Wow.
start looking for this guy. Oh my gosh. And I remembered looking up and going, this is like a James Bond movie right now. What is going on? And then, they were coming in and taking swabs of, I was telling them his hand was on my neck at one point, on my arm. So they were taking swabs for DNA. They took, you know, pretty much most of my bed, my comforter, my sheets and everything for evidence. And then the officers asked, "Can we take pictures of?" I didn't have any physical, he didn't hurt me physically anyway. but I had little red marks, here
Mhm.
and there, and they asked, "Can we take pictures?" And at the time, I didn't know what I was, you know, feeling when they asked me that. In hindsight, now looking back on it, if I understood what was going on, I would have told them, "I really don't want pictures of me taken by the police officers were men." And so I thought, like, I really don't want you to, take pictures of me. But at the time I
Well,
went,
when this happened,
okay,
how old were you? Because 'Cause you're not very
23.
old. You were
I know,
twenty-three.
I was 23 at the time. Um, and then, they took pictures. I had to write down very, they said put every, all the details in this writing about what happened, describe to us what he looked like. And I just thought, I was like, I looked like a pretty average male, in all dark clothing, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean, it was
so,
dark, you couldn't really see. It would be hard to give a
like,
description.
and so, and then I called my parents, and that phone call. I straight up don't. I know my parents remember it, but I do not at all. And they were living an hour away at the time, and they came and just picked me up, and we took
Mhm.
some of my things from my room, and then I moved in with my mom and dad. And that next day, so I go home, and that night, I don't think any of us slept. I
I'm
couldn't
sure
even
not.
really bring myself to, you know, the first sign of, I guess trauma or something was when we went home to my parents, and, it was like 5 in the morning at this point, I think. And my mom said, "You need to lay down. Let's sleep." Right. And I looked at the bed, and I said, I cannot lay down. I can't, laying in a bed was so hard after that, because it was
Mm.
just, I can't do that. And then,
Putting yourself
and that,
back into the scene.
oh, it was, oh my gosh. So my mom was sleeping with me, for weeks after that. And then, but the next day it was wild. They started calling my family to say what happened, right? And that was the first time, I remembered thinking, why is this such a big deal? Like, why do we have to call everybody? It's, I'm fine, which I wasn't, in hindsight. But so I remembered, they were calling my siblings, and I was pretty emotion, I didn't have any emotions when they were on the phone with them explaining what happened, until the words, "she was assaulted" came out of their mouth. I didn't even really feel sadness, but I would just start crying. But I didn't feel sad. It was almost, I was shocked that tears were
Mhm.
coming. For it was such a weird, she had to tell my boss at work, and my boss at the time was so amazing, and just she said, "Don't come. Whatever you need, take time off. If it's 3 months, if it's 6 months, if it's a year, your job is here when you're ready to come back." And then, from there, I I'm pretty sure I would just I would wake up from the very little sleep that I could get after, trying to lay in a bed again, or learn how to, lay in a bed again. Um, Walk around my house. I didn't know what to do with myself existing for, at least a month of, I don't I don't know what to do. I remembered I was outside with my dog at one point, and my neighbor, this was a funny memory. My neighbor was walking up the street, um, and he said, "Hey, Kenz, are you visiting for the weekend?" My mom was outside, and I looked at her and I thought, I
What do I answer?
what? What do I even say to this? And I was speechless, and I just looked at my mom and I went, "Mom, you know, you want to answer this for me, because I don't know what to say, and she goes, you can tell him." And I, oh my gosh, I think it was the most uncomfortable response of just, a man came in and attacked me and I'm staying. It was so uncomfortable, and he was just, "Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I will see you around." And oh my gosh, it was so uncomfortable, but just like little things like that.
Mhm.
When I would have to go to the grocery store, I couldn't go. I like super feared the outside world. When we would go out to stores, or we needed to run a quick errand, I always had to have somebody with me, to make sure I was fine. And then, growing up, I was a big runner. I was in cross country and track. And I thought, after it happened, I thought running is just like an invitation to be kidnapped or something at this
The
point. Like,
fear of
I
everything.
can't run alone. And so, there was one day where, I missed running, and because prior to the event, running was my break. I loved running so much. It was my time to not think about anything. And then that kind of switched, and I thought running is the most vulnerable thing that I can do because I'm running alone and everything. So I remembered my first run back. I was holding two things. It was mace in one hand and a little pocket knife in the other. And oh, that was, I didn't run with music anymore because I thought I need to hear everything that's going on, around me.
To go
Yeah.
back to the scene and to the man who came into the house. Was he
Yeah.
ever captured?
Yeah. So it was 4 days later. So it happened on December 11th. And then the December 15th, I get a call from my roommate. And so she gives me a call and she says they arrested somebody and they think he's linked. They think it's the same guy from 4 nights ago. And I think this was at 1 a.m. one night, and I like shake my mom awake. I said, "Mom, they've arrested somebody." It was, oh my gosh. And then I think we both started crying. Um and and the investigators that I was, assigned from the original night, right? I do get a call from them the next day. But they said there was a man that went back, parked his car outside, and then walked himself to the backyard, which is where my room was. Um, and they said he started, cutting the screens off of windows, off of just all of the windows, right? And I know, and they said obviously at that point that was suspicious activity, right? They had reason to arrest him, and
Yeah.
that's when, so they arrested him, and that's kind of when like everything came out about, they found the gloves, the mask, the same, um they had the same shoe, or they had the same shoe print from when he came into my roommate's window. It was muddy, and so there were shoe marks in our house, and they said the shoe matched the markings.
So he came in to
Um,
try to attack one of your roommates 4 night several
they
nights later.
I don't know what his intention, or what his goal was going to be the second time he came back. Um, they just know he came with intent to, like, sexually assault somebody. And they found that out once he was arrested, and they had, kind of access to everything. So much of the evidence was on his computer and on his phone. And,
So had he been
that's,
like stalking your house or something? Or was
he
he,
had
or
been at
did
our
he?
house multiple times before and just kind of parked and like looked at, what's crazy is So I guess backtrack a little bit. At one point when I was living in this house, I wanted I wanted to move. And I posted my house on my Facebook as a listing, right? And I noted that uh it was a female, my house was looking for a female roommate, because they wanted a female roommate. Um and he went onto an account, you know, posed like as a woman, and was asking questions about the place and everything. And he targeted all female houses, right? So that's how he knew, what are the roommates? And I said, it's six other women, right? Um, and they think he targeted female houses for obvious,
Yeah.
reasons.
So did they find that he had assaulted, were there other, did he have other um victims?
Right. He had broken into other houses before, never came in contact with somebody or, with someone. They said the other ones were just kind of breaking in. It was more of like a burglary. He was kind of getting a little more confident with every time he would get into a house. And the night that it happened, I remembered the police officer saying, this is such a safe place. We've never had anything more than like petty theft as, the biggest crime here, right? Or, illegal parking. And they said, a week ago, or it was a week or 2 weeks ago, they said we had another person report, that somebody broke into their house, which was linked to the same guy. So he broke in, but he didn't come in
Assault.
contact with
Mhm.
anybody. Right. So yeah, they got all of their information. They investigate, they said my investigation, there were so many kind of open investigations that when he was arrested, he was sort of he closed a lot of unsolved cases. So it went from 3 investigators to 15 because of all these other cases that were coming in tied to
Mhm.
him. And so they were so nice to me and kept saying, like this he was dangerous and if you hadn't called, you know, um, he could have hurt a lot more people because he was attached to many things here. Um, so I mean, if I can say anything to anybody, it's always like call the cops, right? And let them know when something bad happens because turns out this just turned into such a big um, investigation.
Yeah.
Um, and then matters went to court, and that's like chapter 2, I feel like, or phase 2 of all of this.
So in the meantime, between this time of the attack and before you go into court, you were saying that you were experiencing fear and paranoia,
Mhm,
like going out and, just doing things to protect yourself, and you didn't really like to do things by yourself. What did you
mhm.
do? When did you start taking steps to get past, to find some
Right,
help, to help get
right.
some help with that?
So, first step was, and the investigators and police officers that were working with me, they were emphasizing counseling, you know, talk to somebody because you're going to have to get something to get past something like this. You will need to talk to somebody. And my mom really helped. I was in no, I had no motivation to look for anyone. So my mom did all the digging for, therapists. Um, and looking back, yeah, talking about it was massive. And just talking about the super nuanced feelings and experiences that, I felt for a long time. I really wanted to connect with somebody that I thought, "You get it." I was telling my family what was going on, but
Mhm.
it was so I mean, it's something that you hope nobody relates to in a way of, the feelings that come with it. And I feel like that's part of the, like, toxic cycle of it all is it makes you feel really alone because you just I didn't know anybody that, so and so has been through something like this. Let me talk to her and see um, what she did. And my therapist, she had her own relatable experience. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I've got somebody that
Mhm.
just gets it, right? Um, and so she was a huge help. And then I do remember getting to a point. So I felt like, my life, I remember telling my mom at one point, I was so lost on, I said, I'm 20, I'm 23. I I can't go to bed without my mom like laying next to me. I can hardly bring myself into a bed. I'm not working. It feels like the biggest goal I have right now is to drive my car by myself and not get into this rabbit hole of really, scary, fearful thoughts. I just thought, what is my life, at this point? And then so that was during the daytime. And then come the nighttime, it felt even more stressful because that was, just kind of as the day went on, the fear would increase. The nighttime, the darkness would scare me. And I got so, tired naturally of just I thought I need a break. I need to feel, something secure. And so I remembered feeling at one point I was frustrated at, how could this have happened? And I kind of used that frustration as, my motivator to, you know, do something that I was scared to do, like go to the store by myself, right?
So
And
you
so, I mean,
actually
it's
started giving yourself in little challenges?
yes. And it was little things like walking my dog up the street and back down. And that felt like a huge victory to me, right? Because it was everything. It was the first time that I felt like I was finding myself again and,
Mhm.
believing in myself. It started with such little things. And then, the feeling that would follow from kind of pushing my boundaries a little bit, that was I needed that, right? And so there was those little things going on. And then to be honest, we were still going to church. My family, grew up Catholic growing up, and we, we would go to church every Sunday just like we would. Um, and I remembered, when I was kind of at that really low, I need something to hold on to here. I remembered there were little lines in the readings during mass that for the first time, oh my, I felt like I had a direct communication, with God. And that felt um oh, that was comfort on a new level of just it was the shortest thing. So I remember there was one reading. It's I now know it's, Corinthians 2:12, and it says, "When you are weak, with me you are strong." And that I bawled in church when I heard that because I was like, "Oh, I'm so weak right now." Like I really needed that, and I fell in love, you know, with that feeling that it gave me. It took away the feeling of, um, you know, being alone. I thought,
Mhm.
you're always here. That was huge. I, I thought no matter what people are around me, I have somebody who is always with me, and
Yeah.
that was pretty life-changing. Um, and so through, counseling, my own, pushing myself, um, I really attribute so much of my healing from really falling in love with my faith. And that has kind of filled in a lot of the gaps and a lot of the holes in my heart, that I wondered ever, is this am I ever going to be able to, trust people again? Or it gives me a lot of answers to
Hmm.
questions that I, you know, wondered, how am I ever gonna, get past this? Um, so those I feel like those are the three like pillars that kind of
Awesome. That is
brought
fabulous.
me out of things. Yeah. Thank you.
So, Kenzie, going back, did you ever have to face him in court? What happened when the time came for your hearings to start?
Right. So it was COVID. It was, the very beginning of COVID. So, we could show up virtually or we could come in person. I went in person, and he chose to show up in video every time. So I faced him, but it was on like a little TV screen. And most of the time his face was kind of cut off. So I could say yes, but I feel like it, maybe would have been a little different physically.
Hmm.
Makes sense.
Did it give you a sense of empowerment though that you made the choice to go in person and
It did. It gave me a little bit, to be honest. A lot of me felt kind of disappointed that I wanted him to be there and to, I would get very, I would I would do my hair, I would do my makeup to try and like walk in there feeling uh I've got my stuff together and you didn't do
hmm.
anything to me, right?
Yeah.
So part of me wanted him to like see me and, hear me because I wanted him to, just face me like you
Yeah.
did this to me. The
But he
least
was a
you can
but
do,
so you've kind of
show up.
felt like he was a coward in not showing up.
Yeah, I think he took the kind of the easy way out because what was crazy um was his family was there. His
Mm.
mom, siblings and everything. And I wanted to go, got your family here, man. Like, show up, And so, and part of it, I was really thrown off. I didn't know that was a choice for, it wasn't a choice for me to go virtual, but it was for him. So, you know, before everything, I was amping myself up. I was getting ready. And then to see him on a TV screen, it really threw me off. And, the times that I only had to speak once, believe it or not, because so we had the preliminary hearing, and then, the judge said, yes, we can, there's plenty of evidence here. We can go through
Mhm.
with the trial. And then the first day of, the first hearing that we were supposed to have, it was moments before we were about to walk into the courtroom, and I was working with the Commonwealth attorney that was
Mhm.
representing the state. He comes in and he goes, we're not having a hearing. He pled guilty to all of our charges. And so that was, I was getting ready to sit up on the stand and tell everyone, all these strangers kind of sitting in this courtroom what happened to me. And I wanted to throw up. I was so nervous. And so he comes in and he goes, yeah, we're not having a hearing. He pled guilty. We're going to go right on to sentencing after this. And again, part of me, I wanted to feel like good about it, but then again, another part wanted me to say what happened, kind of to him so he could hear me and,
Mhm.
know me and see kind of what he had done,
Yeah.
um
You felt a little cheated.
felt a little disappointed that so then when it came to sentencing, which was the big day and everything, my attorney said, he can come virtually, but most don't. Most will they He's most likely going to be here in person. And that's when I could make my victim impact statement. And that's when you can say, he said, it's unfiltered. You say whatever you want to say. And then again, so I'm walking in and oh my gosh, I was sweating. I was so nervous and just kind of gross. And when we walk in and they invite, the defendant in,
Mhm.
Elijah in, a TV monitor comes up and I go, man, that really threw me off again. And everything that I had planned, I completely like botched it. I was so thrown off and uncomfortable, and it felt awkward because he had a mask on and pretty heavy glasses, so I couldn't even really see him. And so it was just like, I feel like I'm not even talking to you. I feel like I'm talking to the judge, which is weird. So I cut it pretty short. And because I just, once I was up there, to be honest, I just wanted to get off. I thought this is like the biggest public speaking gig that I've, ever done. And I've never been good at public speaking, let alone about the most vulnerable time of my life,
Yeah.
And then
Did you
so
at least call him a coward going, you couldn't even come here and face me
I
after
was
this? You
so
tried. You tried.
uncomfortable. Like, all I know is at the end, I told him, like, I said, I this is another, I feel like, memory that I don't remember what I said because it was just such a
Oh,
blur.
yeah.
But I'm pretty sure at the end I said something like, I really want you to reflect on if this is the type of person you want to be remembered as, or I hope you just really have some introspection and
Mm-hmm.
consider, if this is what you're going to be remembered as, for me
Yeah.
at least. And if you don't want to do that, then you need to make some changes. Um,
So
and
is he still in jail? Is he
he
still in prison?
he's
Good.
still in it's called like a Greenville Correctional Center. And one of the things that I feel like this was one of the most humbling moments of it all was after I gave my statement. The judge considered everything, and he did end up giving him, the max. It was the range was 1 to 10 years, and part of me was thinking, so terrified to go in there and go, this man gets 1 year. this whole this whole trial has taken more than a year, almost 2 years. I thought, oh, what am I gonna do if that is what happens? So anyway, so he gave him 10 years. And even I remembered, I will never get this cry out of my head. So his family was there, right? And his mom, he said it was 10 years. And the mom, oh my gosh, just let out a cry of, I almost wanted to cry with her because I thought, like, you're not, you don't deserve this either. This is your son. I can't imagine I can't relate at all. All I know is, I don't even have kids, but if I had to hear this about my kid, I'm
The
sorry
anguish.
for you as well. And when we walked out, oh my gosh, so sentencing was over, and the whole family, they held the door for me leaving. Oh my gosh. That was like the biggest form of validation I guess I was looking for that I feel like I would have gotten, had Elijah showed up in person, but they all held the door for me, and they all just kind of nodded at me, as in a like, I'm it felt like I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, I love that memory so much.
Well,
Oh,
again, going back to your faith in the Bible, it does say, when you fall victim to certain things, God will put you in front of your enemies, and they will
that's
bow
for
down to
sure.
you.
Ugh, that and that's sort of when, I'm in the major that I'm in now, and I really think it's because, that that one moment.
Can you just remind the viewers of what's your major now?
It is forensic psychology. So, and I want to take it into correctional settings. But that moment kind of reminded me, there is there's another side to this. And there is like humanity. I mean, them crying was the first sign of, at least they showed up. And they're just as heartbroken, and for other reasons. They're not a tragedy, but it's not happy. Like,
No,
I don't want to
no.
see anyone there, or, be told. I never thought I would hear somebody be sentenced to something because of, a crime that was committed on me. Mhm.
So do you have a tip, two or three, that quickly you would give to somebody uh, of being a victim of a crime
Mhm.
and going forward?
First and foremost, and, I don't think it's a secret to anybody, is to talk. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. But if I've learned anything right now, it's that discomfort is all temporary. Sort of what's on the other side of it is, it's so worth it. It is very, everything is temporary. And usually the areas of growth are in the places that we don't want to go to, I think.
Hmm.
But when you do, that's when you really learn something about yourself. So number one is to talk about it. Um, which is, yeah, much easier said than done, pun not intended. And number two, I would, little thing, or I guess talking about it before then. I guess the biggest thing might be, like admitting it to yourself. Because
Hmm.
I know that a big thing, especially for sexual assault, is that it's, you know, it's hard to even talk about. It's very easy to kind of put his shit under the rug, sort of thing. um Being gracious with yourself, and, acknowledging little victories,
Yeah.
just to kind of give you some a little, hope and pep in your step, because you start with those and they just keep building from there. And then reach out, for help. Just knowing that you're not alone, that's really helpful. There are a lot of people that are kind of in the same not the exact same shoes, but that can give you kind of different perspectives.
Hmm.
So someone you're super comfortable with to opening up about, and just communicating what you need will really go a long way.
If anybody wanted to follow you, to learn more about you, or giving your advice to somebody on sexual assault, because that's why we're talking, because I know that you want to have more of a platform to be vocal about this. Um, so Kenzie, if somebody wanted to follow you, where would they follow you online?
Definitely you can follow me on my Instagram at Kenzie Scanlon, and don't be afraid to message me. And, I would love to give any advice and help that I can. So open arms.
Well, Kenzie, it was a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for being so open with your story. And I hope that you can have a successful future in forensic psychology, and I think you're going to have a huge impact on society.
I appreciate you giving me the chance to talk about it so much. I really do.
So Thanks for joining us. And if you know anybody who has gone through this and they have not gone to get help or have an impactful story, just congratulate them, love them, accept them, and point them in directions if they still need help of overcoming and going from victim to victorious in their life difficult situations. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.